Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Civic Cipher. I am your host, Ramses Ja. Big shout out to my man Q Ward, who is in Detroit today, actually. But that's all right, because he's handling business, and we still taking care of business out here. A lot of stuff has happened. Obviously, we got to talk about it, you know, as we do every week. And today, I have a couple of very special guests in the building. One frequent contributor. She helps us see, you know, from a different vantage point. You know, she helps provide a lens, you know, to a lot of the
so often lacking.
That we're not able to really see, and she's kind of able to, you know, participate from time to time. So we're always happy when she comes up and hangs out. Tessa Farrell's with us. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Okay. Appreciate you coming
Thanks
by.
for having me back.
And then a good friend of mine, you know, the stars are among us now, you know, and that just shows the growth that we're experiencing. That shows the necessity of these types of conversations. And, you know, we're always grateful. I'm always especially grateful when you're in town. But the one and only Elijah Banx.
Man, I appreciate you, man. You know, it's love anytime we sit down. It's nothing but love.
Absolutely. So, you know, I know that you come, you know, we're based in Phoenix. I know that you come to Phoenix from time to time, but, you know, the show is broadcast, you know, pretty widely. So, you know, let everybody know a little bit about your background before we get to the meat and potatoes.
I go by the name of Elijah Banx. You spell Banks with an X, no KS. I'm a pop artist from Long Beach, California. I'm signed to radio legend Big Boy from Big Boy's Neighborhood.
Boy.
So, you know, they calling me the Prince of LA right now. Yeah, I sing the Woman Crush Wednesday record, the Alone record. You know what I'm saying? You just be on the lookout for me. You're going to hear a lot more coming out this year.
Absolutely. And as I stated, I've been fortunate enough to be able to sit down, interview Elijah Banx a couple of times in 2019 now.
Right.
That was been a while. And, you know, we had a chance to hang out a few times, and it just so happened to line up that he was in town, and, you know, we got some stuff to talk about. And, of course, Tessa has been out in the streets, you know, and really helping chip away at this mountain of white supremacy along with the rest of us. So very much someone who is empathetic and sympathetic to the black and brown people's agenda. Someone who recognizes, I don't want to speak for you, but
no.
from my estimation,
many
someone
conversations.
who recognizes that, you know, there's a necessity in terms of rising in solidarity. And so
Absolutely.
Today's episode, we want to talk about something that we didn't get to talk about because, you know, the way, you know, these things time out, but, you know, the attack on the U.S. Capitol building. So, you know, just straight out the blocks. Banx, what's your thoughts?
Crazy. Insane. Like, I've never seen anything like that. I really am still trying to kind of wrap my head around what they were thinking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, when and where did they think that was okay? And the people that allowed them to do it and get away with it, what were their thoughts? I'm still trying to process everything.
Absolutely. Your initial reactions?
I mean, probably that, but really fundamentally, I feel like I know that that's all just a sense of entitlement and righteousness that white people believe that they have, that they didn't need an explanation, a justification, a reason. It was just, this is what we want. We're not getting it. We've gotten what we wanted our entire lives within that system of privilege, and now we're mad about it. And so we're going to show the world we're mad. So in some ways, it wasn't surprising at all, and also met with continued levels of audacity.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say something real quick. So one thing, I mean, you know, on radio, or if you're listening to the podcast, which, by the way, you can download this and all previous episodes of Civic Cipher if you visit the website, civiccipher.com. It's available on your favorite podcasting platform. But if you're just listening to our voices and not watching this on YouTube or wherever it's broadcast, you might not be able to tell, but Tessa, the fiery speaker that she is in fact white. So when
as a ghost, you say?
As a ghost, indeed. Casper the Friendly One. So when she's talking, I just want that to understand that this is the way the world looks through the eyes of a woman who has lived her whole life with whiteness at that wind at her back. And so the way she challenges it might sound a little different from the way someone who didn't have that experience growing up might challenge it. Now, my initial reactions were that I wasn't really surprised. Now, obviously, I was like concerned, right. But it was just kind of like watching history being written. It's not like anything that, when you see the guy dressed up in the Viking hat on the podium, I'm like, yes, that checks out. You see the right. Confederate flags waving in there. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm kind of used to it. And, the boldness, the audacity, on and on and on, has never really not been the norm. Right. This is really something that a lot of times, people will use this sort of stuff to intimidate and suppress black and brown folks and, their plight toward, accomplishing whatever. Because of that entitled confidence that white folks have, some white folks have oftentimes, because they are aware of the fact that the police work for them, look like them, represent their interests. It emboldens, at least in my experience, has emboldened many white folks throughout the course of my life that I've seen to move in such a way that a normal person who really values their own safety, or at least is, partially aware of the fact that, anything could happen at any time, right. would reasonably try to avoid, Recently I shared an example and you'll be able to follow me. Q and I had a conversation about someone named Andre Hill, who was shot in his garage recently while he was working on his car, I think, or I don't even know what he's doing because I couldn't even read into the story. But the police pulled up, shot him in his garage, right? I have a garage in my house.
Right.
This was some years ago, but I was doing something to one of my trucks in the garage. And one of my neighbors came out and had some sort of complaint about me working in my garage and took exception to me doing that. Now, I wasn't harming anybody, wasn't bothering, wasn't making any noise. He just didn't like my garage door open and my truck partially, out of the garage where I could get a little sunlight. So I think I was like changing a headlight bulb or something like that. Something simple, but he just took exception to it and came across and proceeded to get in my face and sort of, I'm putting it mildly, but it was basically challenging me working on my own vehicle on my property. And, the boldness that it takes to do that is largely stems. Yeah, it comes from one type of person, and usually it's toward other types of people who don't look like that. It's like they feel like they have dominion over it. I don't like this truck partially parked in the garage, so move it because I say so. Now, I'm not sure his situation, but I don't have a mortgage on my house. So I live here. This is my land. Nobody's kicking me off of it. I'm not sure of his circumstances. And then he starts to, well, I do this for a living. And, he said something like, I'm a lawyer. To which I responded, I pay lawyers. That doesn't impress me. So, the only thing a lawyer can do is work for me. That doesn't intimidate me. Right. And, we have our little back and forth, our little exchange. But the one thing that I recognize, this man was a lot older than me. And physically, I'm in a lot better shape than he is. And so the one thing that he said to me that gave me pause, and I think that he knew that, was that he was going to call the police on me. And in that moment, the optics shift entirely because he could get punched in the mouth. Facts. But the police will come and decide whatever they want to decide. He probably will not be wrong. And it's, and so that relationship between these emboldened people, oftentimes white, because of the fact that they feel the police works for them. Kind of, that's why this Capitol attack hasn't surprised me at all. So, some of the things I've seen, some of the memes going around, and just pointing out the fact, obviously some of them are funny, but pointing out the fact that, in short, that if black folks had done a fraction of this,
even jogged past the Capitol too fast.
Yeah, talk about it, man. So, and you've taken part in a lot of the protests in LA, right?
Yeah. For whenever I am in town, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, I've seen some of that on social media. So, what's the climate like? What was the climate like out there when that was?
Oh man, it was tense. It was definitely tense. Just one thing I can say, it brought the people together.
Sure.
I love that part. But when it came to like the people versus the police, it just felt a little retro. Like it was something that like I've seen in movies, you know what I'm saying, right. Stuff like that. Nothing that I've personally been able to experience in this lifetime, that type of just tension between the police and people.
Yeah. And growing up in Long Beach, I'm sure that you have your own stories with the police.
Yeah, definitely. And it's crazy, good and bad. Like, I know some great cops. I know some bad cops, you know what I'm saying? Like, all the way from Long Beach to LAPD. But, like, it's crazy how history kind of repeats itself.
Sure.
And how we're going through the same things that, you or your father had to go through, you know what I'm saying? Because we're different ages.
Yeah.
It's constantly repeating itself.
Absolutely.
So,
the thing is, when I was born in Compton. When I was born, it was the 80s. So I grew up in Compton, 80s Compton. So crack was hitting hard and that sort of thing. And I've said this before on the show. That has very much shaped my view of the police. The police have never been the good guys. As a whole, they've never been a good guy. As a whole unit. Yeah, in my book, the police have always been, not dissimilar to gangs, which in a lot of ways
they push their own agenda.
Sure, absolutely. And having seen police behave in a way that's not so much protecting and serving, but more like bullying and terrorizing communities. And this is lived experience. This isn't hearsay. I've actually seen these things happen. Again, they very much shape my view of it. When we get to the point where we're watching protests. I saw the whole thing unfold. I spent the whole day watching these Trump supporters stand outside of the United States Capitol building. And, they were talking about explosive device. They were talking about everything. These people might be armed and they're just standing there. No one is taking aggressive action, against them or anything like that, which is fine. But I recognize that had there been Black Lives Matter banners instead of Confederate
I see
flags.
The disconnect. I can see it plain, like, loud and clear. Like, you feel me? Like, for sure.
Yeah. So, the part that really, again, it didn't surprise me. The part that really stuck with me though was that these people represent so much more of a threat, but the perceived threat. They represent an actual threat, but the perceived threat when you have black skin is so much greater. It's so much more intense. Like, black people are somehow scarier, unarmed black people, as we've seen over and over again, than armed white men and women in this case. And they're Trump supporters. They're described as being patriotic, and their
behavior is just like malicious. You could just feel the energy within them. Like look at the way they're trying to make their point, and look at the way that we're trying to make our point. Totally different attitudes, different energies. You know what I'm saying? So I don't understand why they weren't really as forceful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I think even just the point they're trying to make, like,
right.
We're out here saying Black Lives Matter, and they're out saying we wanted someone to win an election. Now we're mad that you're contesting otherwise. Like, even the point they're trying to make is
wild.
Yeah, in comparison to how people fighting for life are being treated.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I have to assume is that a good number of those people believe, they have to believe that if this man has lost an election and all the news media outlets are calling the election, and then this man challenges the states to recount the ballots, and then all the states recount the ballots, and then he challenges the states at the state level or the Supreme Court and all this sort of stuff, every single one of them gets shot down. I think everyone said every single one except for one, and it wouldn't have been enough to overturn even the results in that one state. And that might even have been some fraudulent activity that benefited him or something like that. That's the only one that they found of, So these people in front of this Capitol building are armed with all of that information. And, I would call it delusion.
Oh, it's definitely delusion.
Yeah, but there also has to be a good number of those folks who are just there for their last hurrah. If there's a way, and I would never do anything like that, but follow me for a second. If Obama could have run and won for a third term, would it not have been worth it to go and support him? I'm not saying run up in the Capitol building, but you know what I'm saying? So I could see people saying listen, let's go. Let's, say that we know that our guy can't do this, but let's just go stand there with him because that's the guy we believe in. That's our champion. The point that it gets from, patriotic and standing by your candidate or his ideas or whatever, a display, if you will, to embarrassing this country on the world stage is rushing, and the police opening the barricades, taking selfies with people. You know what I'm saying? So that's the part where it's like, man, America, your privilege is showing. You might want to, put your, put your clothes on right. You know what I'm saying? Because normally this is buttoned up a little bit, but for those of us who have walked in the streets, all three of us here have, and have been subjected to tear gas and rubber bullets. I haven't personally been shot with a rubber bullet. Let me not put that in there.
Personally, I haven't been shot with a rubber bullet.
Yeah, but I've been with people who've been. You know what I'm saying? And the terror still grips your heart just the same when you're running away.
Just even watch it. Just even watch it go down.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And then, again, I live in Phoenix, Arizona. That's Washington, D.C. That's perhaps one of the most protected places on earth. And these people, not only did they breach the perimeter, but they went inside. Now, Tessa, I want you to talk a little bit about what you saw happen when they actually were running around inside the Capitol building.
What I saw happen by way,
You told me that you saw people carrying stuff, and you made a comparison to looters or something like that. I love the way you put that.
See if I can do it twice. But I think it's just, we watched how many people, even people that came out saying that they support Black Lives Matter, but they don't support looting, or they don't support, support property destruction. That was, a really big rhetoric for a while. I support Black lives, but, I think looting's wrong, and, destroying businesses, it doesn't serve the purpose. And now we're watching both people that said that in support of Black Lives Matter and people that obviously have sat on their platform the entire time saying we don't care about Black lives, we care about property, we care about our stores, our businesses, consumerism, are now invading a building, taking what is federal property. They're invading federal property, taking federal property, stealing mail, breaking apart buildings, taking the podium. It just, it's just where, just the hypocrisy of all of it, I guess is just, in some respects, I don't want to say amusing as if it's anecdotal somehow, but you can just tell none of it means anything. None of it means anything. What people are trying to communicate, whatever their arguments were, obviously, I read several things saying too, obviously these people were never about I don't want to say these people. I think it's really important to not disassociate myself too much from people that were there, because I'm still a product of that very same system. And I think it's really important for white people not to disassociate from what we're seeing on TV for what we were witnessing.
She's good, ain't she? I'm not gonna lie, they got me right there. Like,
because it's really easy to be like, well, I'm not one of them, I would never do that. But the reality is that we all benefit. White people benefit from that system, and it manifests in aspects of our lives that may not look as drastic as that moment did, but still is very real. And so I don't want to say them, but now I lost my train of thought altogether. But it was about the police. They were saying, all of these people have again been on their pedestal saying Black Lives Matter, yet they were, antagonizing cops. A cop has died. So the point is they never cared about, or Blue Lives Matter, I'm sorry. They've been saying Blue Lives Matter this whole time, and now a cop has been killed. They were still antagonizing police, threatening police. They came in with chemical warfare. They were saying that they had chemicals and all of these things. So they didn't care about blue lives any more than they cared about Black lives. It just, was an angle to further their agenda.
Sure.
The agenda of white supremacy and white power. Anyways, I digress.
Something... I'm glad you said that too, because I remember something that happened a while ago. This was in 2005, so you guys were still babies. I'm sorry, that was a cheap shot. I had to take it though. That's all right though. It's okay to be the OG in the room. But no, this happened in 2005. I remember I was working at Power 92 in Phoenix, Arizona, and we were watching on TV the Hurricane Katrina aftermath. There was this television program, it might have been on MTV or something like that, and they were doing fundraising to help out the victims of Hurricane Katrina. For those of you old enough to remember, you know what it is, but if you don't, Hurricane Katrina was basically a huge hurricane. We lost a major U.S. city. Basically, it was underwater, and lots of people died, and everyone else had to evacuate. No homes, nothing. Everything you thought was gone. Imagine waking up and everything that you own is gone. It's swept away in the water.
And it still hasn't been rebuilt.
Oh yeah, that part.
Resources still not been allocated.
So, what happens is Mike Myers is an actor. He had a lot of bigger roles back then, but we knew him as like the Austin Powers guy. He was doing an interview, a live taping with none other than Kanye West. And say what you will about Kanye West, once upon a time, this man spoke the truth. And he said, I'll never forget it. He said, the news is reporting, mind you, this is live TV. Kanye says the news, when they see a white family go into a store and grab supplies, they say just that. This white family is, or they don't say white family on the news, but they say this family is going in and trying to get supplies so that they can, take care of themselves because, blah, blah, blah. And they gave it a bit of a story, a background. People could empathize with the family and, they could build a narrative around this white family being a victim. And then Kanye says, but when it's a black family that goes in and does the same thing, the news refers to them as looters. And they're doing the same exact thing. And I think that by itself speaks to how blackness is treated and what black people have been saying for hundreds of years. That yes, okay, we can use the same bathroom now. We can drink from the same water fountain. But when it comes to the optics, when it comes to the moral divide, when it comes to anything, there is much more in the way of opportunity on the white side, or at the least, there is much less in the way of opportunity, fairness, balance on the black side. And even the words white and black, look them up. The words have been given so much conditioning. We're all brown. We all have varying degrees of melanin, which makes us brown. But, the language in and of itself it creates this disconnect from our humanity, that we're all here, we all, are doing this together, and we all want the same things. We want our offspring to do better than we have. And then, it's examples like this one where these folks get to run up in the building, largely leave with their lives. I do want to mention that one woman was killed. I'm not sure what she was doing, but a police officer shot one woman there. But the point is that we're making is that with that many people, we know it would have been not even a gunfight. It would have been a slaughter. Exactly.
And hundreds of arrests. Whoever they felt that they couldn't kill, they'd just be like, "Oh yeah, we got to arrest you."
Easily. And so, Kanye saying that in 2005,
15 years ago.
Yeah. 16 now, 16. Was absolutely a precursor to what we saw today. Something that really, that's why what I saw didn't surprise me. That's the same broadcast where Kanye said George Bush doesn't care about black people.
That's what I thought you was going to say.
Oh, no.
I remember that for sure.
Yeah. So just before he said that, he described what the media was portraying, and he was asking people to donate. And so because I got to see that in real time as it happened, I understood the context in which, he said that. He's like, listen, we have to donate. These people need us. My people need us. We have to do something. The news is not helping. They're creating a narrative that's just not true, and it's not fair. And George Bush, and he's saying, and George Bush doesn't care about black people, so we need to do something. We care. We MTV, we the people that play this music, we the people that love this culture, and these people that create it, we need to do something. Lil Wayne lives there. This is sort of what Kanye was talking about.
Kanye knows how to get to you.
Yeah. But then the sound bite that comes out of it is George Bush doesn't care about black people.
That's the only sound bite that people cared about.
And I'm not going to pretend like it wasn't profound.
Yeah, he wasn't wrong.
Yeah, or that it wasn't something that you would naturally pull out of an interview like that, because that's the one that's going to get you the most attention. Facts. But and I don't think Kanye regrets saying it. Or if he does,
Kanye doesn't regret saying anything.
There you go. But again, the point there is that Kanye knew in 2005, and I've known my whole life, I'm born in 1982, that the world treats white folks and black folks differently. And the world much less than America, the United States. The United States really treats black folks and white folks differently. So I'll tell another story. I was sitting down with a good friend of mine once upon a time, and we were talking about Ahmaud Arbery. I believe that's his name. He was jogging in his neighborhood. And the way the story goes is that he stopped in an abandoned house, had a look around, came out, kept it pushing, right? And my friend, who is someone who associates with black people, he's a very kind man, he's a good person. He and I had to have a very, very intense human moment, because he said to me, he's like, yeah, man, he shouldn't have been in that house. Why did he go in that house in the first place? Of course, he's going to look suspicious if he's in that house, and those people are defending that property, even though it's not their property. Like, he was asking for it. And I don't know that that's exactly what he said, because he might be listening, but that was kind of what he was suggesting. And my response to that was, okay, so let's remove Ahmaud Arbery from the equation. And let's put Tessa into that scenario. So now Tessa, if you can't see Tessa, she's beautiful.
Aw.
Yeah. Blonde hair, blue-eyed, something like that.
Green, yeah, but
sure,
all
something
the same,
like that.
yeah, light-eyed. Eurocentric standards of.
Yeah, just a good-looking woman. Younger look, you know what I'm saying, attractive. Most people would, you kind of have a look like, what's the girl from the Batman movie with the Joker, the Joker's wife? The actress.
Margot Robbie that you're saying?
That's who you look like. You look just like that girl. So that was a good thing. I hope you think that she's a good looking person too. But anyway, So, yeah, let's put her into that scenario and let's remove Ahmad from the scenario.
I mean,
right?
not to interrupt you, but there were white people going into that house. They
Sure.
said that later, right? That white folk were coming in and out of that house the same.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So watch what happens now. A young white woman with blonde hair and green eyes, is jogging down the street. She sees a house, halfway built. It's interesting. She might want to see, whatever she wants to see. Maybe she's thinking of buying a house on her own. Maybe, I had a house built before. I went and visited that house once, twice a week if I could.
For sure.
Just to check on the progress and to daydream. Where's the couch going to go? That sort of thing. And I would look at other people's houses. It was a new development. I would look at their houses too to see what they have. How is this going to affect property values? Is this a 4-bedroom?
I definitely would have been there.
You know what I mean? So, snooping around in an empty lot with some sticks in it, or some sort of half-built structure is not unusual, at least, and it's certainly not something that you should lose your life over, especially if you look like Tessa. So let's play this scenario back. Tessa's jogging. She goes into the house, has a look around, sees all this cool stuff, and leaves.
Makes friendly conversation with the neighbors while no one asks any questions.
Sure. Exactly. And because my friend had told me, he's like, that guy, he could have been in there stealing stuff. He could have been doing anything, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, so you assuming that him being there is sinister suggests that you're associating that sinister behavior with his blackness, because the only thing that we've changed is the fact that now this is a 26-year-old white female, and all of a sudden she's not in there stealing. How could she be? And she's not up to no good. How could she be? Right. And what you have to come to terms with in this moment is, are we all human here, or do some humans get treated better than others? Do some humans get consideration that others don't?
Valued differently.
Exactly. And this is the thrust of the Black Lives Matter movement, and this is how we're able to see what we saw at the Capitol building and not have as intense of a reaction as someone like Tessa might assume that we should, because we're kind of used to it. We grew up in a world very much shaped by, well, I'm black, so I can't do that. You could do it, but I'm going to stay right here. Don't talk back to the police. Don't, just certain things that, like my neighbor did.
Yeah, it's so crazy that you say that. It even goes down to I had a white best friend, and he would talk back to his dad. Yeah. And I would look at him like, bro, are you crazy? Like, what are you doing? And his dad would never do anything about it. And it's just like, I know for a fact I couldn't do that at my house.
Listen.
You know what I'm saying? I'd be put through the wall. Yeah. So it's like even the comparison of something so simple. Sure. You know what I'm saying? I can, as I get older, I can understand it.
So, you very much can see that, obviously, like you said, a lot of that's cultural, but that absolutely spills out onto the streets, into the real world, where, certain people move with impunity. They move with this sense of entitlement. To see that man walk out of that Capitol building with the podium, for anyone to look at that and tell themselves that's not a slap in the face of the entire country of the United States of America, they're kidding themselves.
Hurt my heart, bro.
They're making excuses for that. Yeah. Because all you have to do is swap that person for a black person. Now he's a 29-year-old black male, from Baltimore, walking out of the Capitol building with then it's an attack on the sanctity. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think
and a lot
walking out, that assumes he even got in,
Sure, that part.
And that wouldn't have happened either.
And I don't want to take anything away from the folks that really have called it what it is, which is an attack on democracy, an attack on the country, especially in waving those Confederate flags, which
kind of scares me as well, because I feel like you said, usually we're, as the United States, we're usually buttoned up. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I feel like a lot of other countries already don't like our sense of entitlement, I guess.
Sure.
I just feel like that showed them like, oh, we can go, you know what I'm saying? Even their own people can walk into their capital with us. And for other countries to think that that's dangerous. That's super dangerous.
Listen, the craziest part about it is I started watching a TV show not too long ago called Designated Survivor. Follow me here. So this show, you know about this show.
Yeah, I've watched it. I was thinking that the whole time how it felt like that.
So in this show, basically what happens is, everyone goes into the Capitol building. And then someone sets off an explosion in the Capitol building, and the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development is listed as the designated survivor. So if the president, the vice president, the Secretary of State, all these people end up dying, they all can't be in the same building together. One person has to stay away, and they deem that person the designated survivor. So when the Capitol building gets attacked, this guy becomes the president, and he's like the last person he expected to be, and now all of a sudden he's got a country to run. So, and it's
a show?
Yeah, it's a TV show, and it's on the heels of a national tragedy. So he's got to assume power. He gets sworn in the hallway, and all of a sudden he's the president. And they're like, okay, what do we do? Okay. So it's a great show if you want to watch it.
Definitely,
anyway,
check it out.
The first episode, I remember watching it, and you see the Capitol building, it blows up. Everybody in there dies, and I remember just thinking like, man, that's a great special effect. It's just so unreal. It's like watching a movie like White House Down, and
Well, oh my God, that movie scared me. They had everything. You talking about the action movie, right? Yeah. They had the whole White House down within 10 minutes. I was like, oh, if this ever happens, it's bad.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's a sense of, oh, that can never happen in real life.
Yeah.
These buildings are the most protected buildings on the planet. This would never actually happen. And you know what we saw? We saw regular people, not even a lot of them. They passed through a thin line of security because DC didn't really deem them a threat. The Secret Service. There's military there. I was just in DC, and it might have been August. Just didn't really see these people as a threat. So they're at moderate security threat. And these are people, gun owners for Trump. I remember seeing that flag. Second Amendment rights and don't tread on me flags, and of course the people in camouflage and like they're
what was the Call of Duty outfits for? That makes me, as if I'm outside and I'm a cop and I see you come up with camouflage, I'm just gonna assume you're packing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because why are you coming equipped for war?
Exactly my point. And the thing is, have a little white skin, and they won't see it that way. Be like, okay,
I'd be scared. I'd be scared.
It's your constitutional rights at that point.
But you know what? But dig this though. What happens is those people are supported often, or what's infinitely worse, are also among the ranks of the police officers. So the police officer looking at a guy in camouflage gear with a hunting rifle sees a comrade, sees one of his own. And both of them look at someone like you and me and think, oh, we're the enemy. We're the thugs. You know what I mean? And that's the crazy thing about it, because it's just it's the furthest thing from the truth. What we saw was thugs run into the Capitol building.
Thugs.
They looted the building. They, disrespected the police. They did all these sorts of things. You know what I mean? And somehow, when it's us and we're trying to make a point, we end up we end up getting villainized. And really what we're asking for is, in all of our protests and marches and things like this, it wasn't to, anything that we've ever done wasn't to overturn an election, because
stir up trouble. Honestly,
never to stir up trouble. But we ask for basic decency. We ask for human rights. We ask for
arrest somebody before you want to kill them.
Thank you. Give everybody their day in court. You know what I mean? Don't just execute human beings. We have a little bit more value than that. Hence, Black Lives Matter. These people were upset about the election results.
Something like, I'm not saying it's the same thing, but winning or losing. Like, you can compare that to a basketball game or something like that. It's just winning or losing. You guys lost, and you're mad about it.
Oh, and the crazy part about it is you guys lost probably like 17 times in a row. We watched it.
Yeah,
and y'all still don't want it. But anyway.
Yeah,
anyway,
right.
Real quick, if you're just tuning in to Civic Cipher, I'm your host, Ramses Ja. My guests today, Tessa, Farrell, and Elijah Banx, all the way from LA. Once again, I appreciate both of you guys for stopping by, man. Especially you. I know you came a long way. You looked out for your brother. You came up and did my little show with me. I appreciate that.
That's anytime, bro.
And of course, what we're talking about is the attack on the Capitol. And then, Trump said something. He got on there before the attack on the Capitol. Well, first off,
talking about the Proud Boys standby.
No. This was after that.
I think they stood by. They was waiting.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, but he was tweeting something like, let's get ready for. I forgot what it was because I don't read this guy's tweets. Which he lost his Twitter account, thank God. But then after these guys show up at the Capitol and they start the proceedings start where they tally up the votes or whatever, and they certify Joe Biden as the next president. When the House got rushed, Trump finally came out after Joe Biden said something. Trump comes out and says, "Hey, we know we lost or we won this election, whatever, but this is not the right way to do it." And he's still like pouring gas on the fire. He's trying to like work the media angles because he's worried about his legacy. So he has to say something, but he has to hold the line too, because those people are there because he thinks that he was cheated out of the election. So he again says, yes, this election was stolen from us, but this is not the right way to, whatever. And then afterwards, after everything had blown over a little bit, he puts out a 2-minute video saying, we'll make a peaceful transition to the new administration, that the attack on the Capitol was heinous and I condemn those actions and blah blah, and just did his best to separate those people. Like I would say maybe like
where the
60-70% of them had Trump hats on. Mm-hmm. The rest of them had flags, and somehow or other he's trying to like distance himself from his actual supporters that he asked to come there and do that exact thing. And then Giuliani said let's have a trial by combat or something. He's really flagrant. This language that he's used throughout his presidency.
By combat.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, that sounds like you want to get down.
Yeah,
well, but 24 hours before, he was calling them lovely, thanking them for their arrival, go home safely, rest, we'll tackle this again tomorrow. And now the language is
very different.
Of peace and
I condemn those actions.
Yeah,
and,
like the rest of the United States.
The long and the short of it is that, we've seen this person play this game on the scale of an entire country.
Facts.
For 4 years now.
I can't believe it's been that long.
Isn't that crazy? And it just feels like we've lived under a dark cloud, and then 2020 that's when the thunder started.
It was the storm.
Yeah,
it was like the build up. It was like gray clouds. You know what I'm saying? Then it was just like, nah, we're gonna open up the gates right now.
Listen, man, it's the wildest thing. And this guy, and then to talk about his Twitter, I think Facebook blocked him as well from using his account.
Yeah, I think he's on like a couple weeks suspensions on each of them as it sits right now.
So,
like, how do you feel to be the president and have a social media be like, look, you're becoming dangerous for this platform?
I think
we have to shut you down.
He's been dangerous.
I think that's part of the reason why he decided to come out with that speech after the fact, where he finally acknowledged that he lost the election and that Joe Biden would be certified as the next president, or would be elected as the next president, because the election had been certified. So when everybody's pulling away from him and he's the last man standing, then all of a sudden he's got nowhere else to go. And that is like textbook narcissism. Him losing that election, he's got to be the winner all the time. He's like sick.
Narcissism is definitely a mental health issue.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a serious thing.
Absolutely. And the worst part about it is there's no cure. If you're a narcissist,
you really start believing the stuff that you put out there into the universe.
Absolutely. And you are a narcissist when they bury you. It doesn't go away. It's just it's like it may as well be like cerebral palsy or some other incurable ailment. But that's why he's willing to fight that fight to the bitter end. It's a bruised ego, and he doesn't want to go down as, like all the presidents that we've had, none of them have said, I want to be on Mount Rushmore. Let's look into that, And obviously we haven't, especially in modern times, I don't think ever seen a president go this far to contest the results.
Ever.
Yeah, because as we stated earlier in the show, the initial results came out, and then the recounts, and then the state courts.
You lost by so much. You should have just
listen.
Now, if it was close, I understand the recount. You feel me? Like, but it was such a large gap.
Yeah, man. It was millions of people, and then he spun together all these. Well, if all 6 of these states change their minds, then we're gonna win. And fraud happened in all these states together, and that's how we lost. No, man.
And you know what? Like, and I didn't even know this part, but what you said earlier. You know what's embarrassing is, yeah, there was some fraud. And it helped you, and you still lost. like, what are you doing?
Yeah, man. So, it really does feel like we're kind of getting toward the end of such a strange thing. But what will ultimately be left behind is people like those that stormed that Capitol building, and what will be left with his legacy will be the divisiveness, and his legacy will be the lack of empathy and the complete and utter selfishness.
I'm glad that they did what they did, because now he gets to go out with a boom, and like a boom that like you can't rewrite or you can't erase that.
Oh yeah, that's
an ugly behavior for a whole people on the Capitol.
Yeah, and then they were his people.
They like in your uniform.
Oh, listen, top to bottom, waving a Confederate flag. Listen, for anyone listening to my voice, if you don't know the history of this country, once upon a time there was a war called the Civil War, and the Civil War was over slavery. Basically, the South wanted to keep their slaves, and the North wanted to abolish slavery. Because slavery was making so much money at the time, most of the wealth in the country was concentrated in the South. Now it's New York, places like that, but at that time all the wealth was down in the South. We were doing cotton and sugar and whatever else we could do. So slavery was making money, and the South decided that we have the land, we have the people, we need to keep this institution going. But all the lawmakers and the politicians lived up north, and so that's how we ended up with the North versus the South, basically a country at war with itself. The South adopted a new flag because they tried to leave the United States and form the Confederate States of America, right? This is a Cliff Notes version of it, and if I'm wrong on any of this, I know I'm not wrong, but
the way you're breaking it down is very, very key.
So the Confederate States of America is something that lasted, I think, 2 to 3 years, something like that. It wasn't a long time. There's bands that last longer than that. There's I got T-shirts older than that. So the Confederate States of America was an actual thing, and they had a flag, and it's the Confederate flag, right? And people that wield that flag are people that claim that flag is their heritage. At the same time, those people wave the American flag because they're proud Americans, right? Right. And the thing is, America fought against the United States of America, fought against the Confederate States of America and won. Mm-hmm. So the Confederate flag is the flag of losers. If that's your legacy and you want to hold on to it, by all means, but know what we see.
The way that you just put that is gold.
Listen, but on top of that,
that should be a meme. You have to make that and watermark it too. You feel me? The flag of the loser.
That absolutely is. And so is the Nazi flag, because Nazis run with those guys just the same. Mm-hmm. There are people that got beat in wars because their ideas are worse. They don't support the best of what humanity is. These are people that
always gonna win.
Are
the
largely
end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. But these people claim that it's their heritage, or whatever it is that they do. And obviously for us, we see it as a symbol of slavery, of the desire for slavery to continue. We see it as a relic of a time when black people weren't really treated so good. And it's a symbol to embolden that group of people against black people specifically. All of those things all the time. It's never anything else. And so to see this Confederate States of America relic in the Capitol building of the actual United States of America. That's a former enemy that has been crushed out of existence, brought back into the actual Capitol building, as though it has somehow been conquered by the South, is asinine. That is an act of treason, if you ask me. It just.
I think in that we're operating though as if that is really what happened, in that ever went away, So I think to say, like, how could this Confederate flag be in the Capitol building is assuming that it ever went away, and the philosophies, the ideals behind it, when really that's still very much the entirety of how our nation operates,
and identifies.
Right.
It's along these lines. For a long time, folks have been saying things like, racism is getting better, and the old racists are dying out, and on and on. And it's just, it's been hundreds of years, literally hundreds of years. And I saw that flag getting waved around inside the Capitol building.
I was going to say just because the old racists, they pass it on, the energy.
Oh, absolutely.
The teachings, like you said. So,
and then on top of that, even if they don't pass it on, there are one thing that I will be fair about. There are groups of younger white men who find a sense of community with other young white men online. These people tend to be involuntarily celibate. In other words, they like women, but women don't like them back. These are the type of people that really would have a problem with me and you, Banks, because we represent social mobility that they don't get. We probably have access to women in ways that they don't. I'm sure that's kind of how they would look at it. I'm not one of those people, but they would look at me and deduce that.
Socially awkward sometimes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For the most part.
And they play video games, and they just sit back and they point their fingers at the whole world about their condition. And they wish, and they don't believe in white privilege, because one thing they said to themselves is like, well, I wish I had some of this white privilege, and I wish I had my $1 million when I was born, like everybody thinks I get, and I wish I had, and in their minds and in their worlds, that's a real thing. They feel like the world doesn't pay attention to them, the world doesn't care about them, women don't like them, and then they grow up very much isolated, and they only find a sense of community in these online forums and these video game forums and so forth, where they're free to vent their frustration with the world. And their frustration with the world, at least they tell themselves the story that their frustration stems from, or the source of their frustration rather, is immigrants, black people, criminals, Black Lives Matter, basically anything that's not a Viking is the source of their discomfort in life, and they feel like they should have more than what they do, and have more access to whatever, and more mobility and so forth, and yet and still they're very much stuck in their room playing the same video games over and over again. And those people grow up not necessarily influenced by their parents,
right,
but influenced by each other, and they're looking for someone to blame. And it's really tough to blame nature, because if you blame nature for your inverted penis problem or whatever it is that you're dealing with. I don't mean to be funny. But whatever it is your issue is that, is keeping you from becoming a little bit more mobile socially, it's just easier to blame other people, and it's easier to vent that frustration. And, like we've seen with, Proud Boys and all these other guys. Proud Boys might be a little different. But, we've seen them kind of get recruited into groups like Proud Boys and the Trump, the Trump train, we'll call it, where they find a sense of, okay, well, these are white folks. These folks recognize that the world is not treating them as good as it could. And, this used to be our country, and life was better in the 1800s. Let's go, or the 1950s, whatever they think.
I was gonna say, when was America great? I still want to know. That,
I mean, maybe for them, and
for them. I really want to know for them.
For them, it's still pretty good. I don't. It's not that great for me. I can't even fix my headlight in my garage without somebody.
That was crazy. I'm not gonna lie. That was crazy.
It's a real thing.
You have a lot more self control than I do, brother.
Yeah. Actually, that story ended up working out. He and I ended up talking again later. I believe that no matter what, there should always be a little bit of forgiveness built into the narrative, because even though my neighbor, we'll call him a 56-year-old bald white man who's certainly a lot more frail than I am, came across and did whatever, he's still a human being. He's endowed with consciousness from the same creator. Whoever created me created him, whatever you believe that to be. It's okay if he makes a mistake, because I'll make mistakes too. And if I leave a little bit of room for forgiveness, then, when the time comes, we can still talk. That doesn't mean run up on me, because like I said, I am from Compton. Facts. I don't play that, but in his case, we ended up talking, and, I let him know how I felt when he approached me like that. And he basically apologized. He recognized that he was in the wrong, and that it didn't make it right, but I understood that my role in that scenario was to make sure that I didn't devolve beyond a certain point. I had to kind of keep my composure, because moving forward, now that man is, to call him an ally would be a little too strong, but I can say that I helped him to grow up a little bit, and then he won't take anger and spew it out elsewhere in the world. Now it has a little bit more like a measured response, because he saw the error in his ways, and I was able to forgive him. And when you do these sorts of things, and you are able to say, listen, you were wrong, you're absolutely wrong, but here's the right thing to do, and if you do this, everything's going to be okay, all is forgiven, then, instead of making a permanent enemy out of someone, you have the potential or create the capacity rather to maybe even make a cheerleader. Some people they have to get a little closer to the source to see the light. And, as long as you allow for that, then, you might make it.
Yeah, for sure. Nah, man, you be speaking the isms for sure.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Well, I want to thank both of y'all for coming up and hanging out with me on the show today. Banks, let them know what's going on with you, how to keep up with you, what's next for you.
Man, everything is Elijah Banx, ELIJAHBANX, even down to PlayStation, man. If you want to get whooped on at 2K, just holla at me. I got a lot I'm working on, man.
Talk about it.
Me and Twizzy got an album that we working on.
Okay.
I got my album that I'm finally about to come out with. Okay. We're working on a deluxe version. I got a country album that I'm working on right now. Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah, man. So I'm all over the place. I just did a rock R&B song the other night. So yeah, man, I'm excited for this year. I'm thankful for quarantine, because it slowed me down, because I was running around. I was on tour with Tory and all that.
Okay.
And
Tory Lanez, right?
Yeah, Tory Lanez.
Okay.
And it slowed us down to the point where now I'm creating in a better space, bro.
I love it.
And I'm enjoying what we're doing.
Perfect. Okay. Tessa, let them know where they can keep up with you, if you so choose.
Oh boy. Yeah, I think it's Tessa for Realist is my Instagram handle, and that's about anything I'm on. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on Snapchat, TikTok. I'm not out here dancing.
That's good enough. Tessa for Realist, that'll work.
Realist.
A lot of potent content there as well. And of course, please be sure to keep up with the show. If you want to download this episode or any of our previous episodes, visit the website civiccipher.com. Submit all your questions, show topics. Please donate. The show is supported by you, and follow all the social media once again at Civic Cipher or civiccipher.com. Until next week, y'all. Peace.